Hello and welcome back to this Down for the Dualistic Crusade. This will be a little bit outside of what I usually do on this channel, but I finally decided to try a really highly lauded, inexpensive, cheap headphone. And I wanted to see, especially because it was a brand I've been very surprised by, I wanted to see if the newer Koss KPH40 model, which I have here, which is Koss's brand new part of their budget lineup, which is supposedly better than the tried and true Kph30i that I've had for a couple years now. And this, among other newer Koss model headphones, have all been really well praised, and with good reason, depending on which type you prefer in the audiophile community, in terms of inexpensive headphones that punch far above their price point, even though it is still the Koss brand, which myself, like a lot of people, used to think is pretty much synonymous with the cheap budget Koss headphones I grew up seeing everywhere and using. So to hear that Koss is making headphones that were really, far better than the cheap price tag and construction that they had, it really surprised me. So I decided a couple years ago to try the KPH30i here, and this has been my go-to headphone to carry around in terms of to have something on the go, or just to toss in the bag, or if I'm just, around the house or doing various odd bits here and there. And these are amazing for the price point. I've definitely gotten this for stocking stuffers or gifts, or just to try and get people away from really crappy headphones, because these are amazing for the price point. So to hear a lot of people rave about the new 40 model and the fact that they've made several design changes and improvements, I decided to finally try this. So to start, I guess I'll talk about the build quality and the overall design. When you get this, it's of course gone for a thin metal headband, so there's no longer the sort of silicone band of the 30, and the actual cups are exposed. That allows them to have a nice sort of swivel effect, and you're also not having your entire ear covered. The way the headband fits, it's designed to sort of sit in the sort of crook in the top of your head, but to show you how this looks, you simply slide them on like this, and it is a little weird the way the headband feels. And once it's on, you kind of forget you have it on, but to be honest, because it's such just a thin piece of metal, you still kind of feel it. But the real difference is, of course, the way the pads sit on the ears. The one problem with the 30s, for me, has always been the way that once you have them on, they do cover the ear to a certain point, and you will start to get that sort of ear sweat, or that sort of warmth, and they do press on the ears a little bit. So I can usually wear these for maybe a couple hours at most, but eventually, if I'm wearing headphones for an extended period of time, I'm going to go for one of my higher end cans, or I'm probably going to be at home. These are just more my on the go sort of headphones. But once you wear them for an extended period of time, comfort can be sort of a factor. Some people are okay with this. Some people have more sensitive ears. I guess I'm sort of in the middle. But you can get special pads and things. You can modify these with more comfortable pads. I've just kept them stock because I just again, these are my sort of on the go headphones. So having these not go around the entire ear and having a sort of swivel effect, there is an increase in comfort. However, again, the metal band is kind of weird, and to be honest, they don't have the sort of rigidity of the 30s. These, it definitely feels, in terms of the actual band and the pads, they feel pretty solid. The 40s here, you don't really get that. And then the other thing, you got to start talking about the actual construction. The one thing about the Koss headphones, and especially on the 30s, the actual wires are very thin, and the first thing that's going to go is the actual connection, if I can get that to focus. And I have had two pairs of these. The first pair I had, I accidentally caught the cord on a table, and it pulled, and it broke the connection. So I've had this second pair ever since, and they're, I haven't had a problem with them, but I've been very careful to never get the cord caught on anything because these cord connectors are so small that they're the first thing to go. They do have a warranty on these, so you can always pay costs however much it is, and get a new pair mailed to you, or send these back in. But it is pretty much on all cheap Koss headphones where the actual wire connection is probably the least strong aspect and the worst part of their various models. So here they've changed that around a bit. They've gone for a sort of reinforced cable, and they are the flat sort of, I don't know what you call these. I've heard some people say pasta noodle or linguine type because they're flat, but they do feel sort of reinforced. The actual connection kind of goes up in there, so it is a little bit more protected. And then the actual cable is really nice because it's that flat design, and it actually goes down a bit lower to where the actual cord joins. These are not going to tangle around and twist like what happens on the 30s quite often. I'll be going along and it starts to twist no matter what you do. So let me slip these back on. The actual cable hits at a nice point, and then here is where the actual connector goes. Now these have a sort of twist lock design, and when you do that, that unlocks the cable. These ship with a standard 3.5 mil cable, but what they did with these detachable cables is you can now buy different accessory cables, so you can use this, for example, with a lightning port on that particular cable. Use it with your iPhone. But you do have to buy them separately, and they are substantially expensive, so that unfortunately does cut down on the sort of value of this headphone being more inexpensive. But of course, if you've already got these, you've probably got one of those 3.5 millimeter to lightning adapters anyway, but those are available should you choose to get them, but you have to get them from Koss themselves because it's a proprietary cable. The connection does feel solid, but another thing you lose from the 30s is the 30s have the inline mic control should you want to use that, and that of course is capable with certain phones as well, and the 40s lose that as well. Now, my other thing about the construction is, now although these are very light, as you can see, everything is actually kind of exposed. So you have that swivel design, but it's like these cups are just literally popped into the frame with a little plastic peg. So for the sort of less materials used and the greater amount of air hitting your ear, and for that addition and comfort factor, these just feel really flimsy. I mean, I didn't know they were going to be this much. I knew it was this was the sort of design, but they feel really flimsy. So I think with these you would have to be very careful, because I can imagine just pulling these in and out of a backpack or something, or if you carried them around with you, I think it's gonna be very easy to break these guys off, because honestly they have this sort of feeling of a clippable ear headphone pad, but if they had just popped them into this metal band. So yeah, I'm not too big on that. They just feel really flimsy, especially coming from the 30, because even though this is plastic, and people have called these literally like the reinvention of a library headphone, because that's what they look like, these are really solid, and this silicone headband is really wonderful for what it's supposed to do. And while these are definitely, in the long run, they are a bit more comfortable as far as the way the ear pads hit you and the cable doesn't twist. I'm not big on the headband. Like the way it hits your head, it's literally it's sitting here in the center of your head, and you kind of forget it's there, but that pressure is still always there. So I don't know. It's just. It's okay, but I'm not big on the headband. I do think that's a bit of a downgrade from the 30, but the comfort factor is an improvement, and it does allow more air to hit your ears. So I think you can safely wear these and enjoy them in terms of the comfort and fit factor, depending on, again, your own preferences. I think for me, I think these are a bit easier to wear for a longer period of time, but they don't feel as well built. I don't think so. I think it's a bit of a trade-off there. But again, it is nice having the better constructed cable in terms of it not ever going. It's not going to tangle itself. But again, you lose the microphone controls. Another thing that I thought was interesting is when you compare the actual plug connections. So they look pretty similar on the surface, but the 30 has a bit of a stiffer and it seems more reinforced plug, whereas the 40 is slimmer and doesn't feel as sturdy. The other thing, if I can slide this down, the 30 actually has one of those little springs on it. Where it goes into the connector. So this just, again, it feels sturdier, and it's like it's going to stand up to a lot more stuff. And I've had this pair for about 2 years now, so I haven't had any problems with connections or going bad or anything. So I think that's another little sort of trade-off where the 40, you have the fancier flat cable, but while we do have this little piece to hang on to, it just doesn't feel as solid or secure as the 30. Now, all of this would be irrelevant if I thought the sound quality was head and shoulders above the 30. Now, both of these are inexpensive headphones. Usually, the 30 is still going for about $30. Sometimes it's $20 when it goes on sale, and then the 40 is selling for about $10 more, for about $40, and it was just on sale for $30. So I decided to finally give it a try, since I've seen so many headphone reviewers and different people really praise these and a lot of new stuff that Koss is doing, and I've been really impressed by the performance of the 30s, particularly for the insanely cheap price they go for. I wish I could say the same as others have said about these. In my own experience, I've been listening to these for about a week, and again, I don't do a whole lot of tech reviews or things, but I've been wanting to try these out. And while I do think they have made some improvements in the overall comfort area, and I think the actual cable connection, and again the fact that these are the flat cables that won't tangle, so those are nice improvements that I think a lot of people, and myself included, have kind of been asking for in maybe a new revision or a new model. But in terms of the sound quality, I can't really say these are better than the 30s. The great thing about the 30s, and why I've really been so happy with these, just having them as my little carry around in a bag headphone. These are not the best headphones in the world, but for $20 or $30, they're freaking amazing. They have a nice balance of all kinds of great elements. They do basically everything you would want a nice, budget, cheap headphone to do, and they don't. Everything just has a nice unified feel to it. Some may say they're maybe a little bit boomy, but it's a nice type of headphone you can throw on and enjoy most any type of music. When you get to the 40s, they do seem clearer at first, but I think what they really do is they seem to have a real emphasis on part of the high range, and the highs, while they are clearer and you will notice more detail, I think it is pushing a certain part of the highs a bit much, and then the parts of the mids and the lows kind of suffer from that. It also doesn't feel unified like the 30s do, which I thought was really interesting. So, and that's not something I enjoy. I don't like a headphone where it seems to be geared more towards one side of the audio spectrum over the other. So I tried a lot of favorite tracks I like to do with equipment and a lot of different genres and different things. So these don't sound bad, but I didn't enjoy them, actually. I was very disappointed because it was not. While it was easier to wear in terms of I can wear these for longer without my ears getting hot and bothered, I guess. I found myself going back to the 30s a lot, and then once I started doing that, I decided to sit down and I did just a test back and forth. I just had a bunch of different music going, and I would just literally switch back and forth. on the same song and just play the same sections back and forth to see if that would make a difference. And I think that's where you'll see the most by doing a direct comparison. That's why you'll really see which headphone you might prefer. And again, this is all subjective, depending on what you may prefer, but I do think the 30s are a more unified listening experience. I think they're actually more enjoyable that way, and it's, I hate to use the word fatiguing, but these are just more pleasurable to listen to, and they're sturdier. Again, I've had these for about 2 years now, and the same pair, no problems whatsoever. I've had them in my backpack. I've had them, I've taken them when I've traveled places. So this particular pair has had a lot of hours on it, and I've not had any problems except for the fact I make sure to never catch the cord on anything, because if you do, you're pretty much going to ruin them. So that particular issue is still a problem with the 40s and any of these cheaper headphones that Koss or other manufacturers are going to be doing. So I wish that would be something they'd focus on. It's nice that they worked on the comfort factor. Some people seem to really like these. I thought I would, but I can't say these are better than the 30s. So for me, I still think the Kph30i's are the best bargain for cheap and expensive headphones. Like this is the type of headphone I wish I had growing up when I just needed my first real pair, because I mean, either way, I don't know how Koss does this with inexpensive headphones. Because again, you say Koss headphone, you think of what you saw in the 80s or the 90s growing up, like I did, and you think cheap, not so good headphone, or your first couple pairs of headphones that you go through real fast because you break them by just not being careful with them. But they've really had a whole bunch of different models in the past few years that have gained great traction and favor among headphone fans and audiophiles. And I'm glad I started checking some of these out, because I needed something that was cheap so I could carry it around. And, if I happened to break it, or I needed to get another pair, or it got busted somehow, or I lost them, that I wouldn't have to worry, essentially, because I don't want to carry around my expensive Sennheiser monitors, or you can't carry around a Sennheiser 500 series open back headphone because you can't really use those in public. You need something. And I'm not going to use earbuds because I hate those, and I can't stand having anything in my ears anyway. So I'm glad I decided to start trying some of these. And of course, you can get better headphones if you are willing to spend more money. The Sony 7506s and the various versions like the V6 have been sort of industry standard for decades now, and they're still great headphones. But those are $80 to $100 or more, and these are still $20 to $40 range. But the fact that I still think the 30s can, they can stand up pretty well against really big names in terms of headphones is pretty crazy. So I have to say, I still prefer the 30s. I still think these are the best budget headphone. I think they're still pretty darn sturdy. Just be really careful when you're using them, and especially if you're out and about. You just be careful you don't ever accidentally break the wire connections. If they could add the improvements of the 40, if they could take this type of cabling and put it on the 30s, and then at least take some of the idea of the more breathable for your ear design of the pads, and maybe tweak the design of the 30 a little bit, I think they'd really have something, because that's what I wish the 40 was. And I like some of the improvements they made, but this is not as good sonically. That's the real thing. So I don't think it's worth it. And these are not only more expensive, but they also are trying to sell you all the other cabling if you want that. And then it really is not the audio bargain you're looking for in a super cheap headphone. So I was just very curious to try this, because I'd heard so much about these. They were really hard to get this past year in terms of availability. They've been out of stock frequently, and they just dropped on sale. So I figured I would try them and see if they were really that much better. But to be honest, For me, and I think if you have a critical ear and you picked up one of these and you've had the 30Is, I think it would jump out to most people that there's been a change made. And I've not tried a lot of the other. I've actually not really tried any of the other Koss models, and I've seen some people say that this maybe has more of a sonic signature like the Porta Pros or some of the other Koss models. So that may be true. I've just not tried or owned one of those. So it definitely has a different sound signature to it, and it was not for me. So I don't know what I'm really going to do with these now. But again, some of the improvements are nice. So I don't know. It's just going to be up to user or buyer opinion, I guess, which you might prefer. Either way, you're getting an unbelievably good sounding pair of headphones, depending on your listening preferences, for a really crazy cheap price, particularly when these have been on sale or around this time, and I'm sure they'll go on sale again. Happens frequently. Again, I've gotten people the 30s as gifts for a number of years now, and I've trying to at least convert people into having slightly better audio performance. So I've heard nothing but positive stuff from people I've gotten the 30s for. And again, I think these are so cheap that you don't have to get a Koss headphone. There's a lot of different brands now, at least trying to get into the cheap headphone market or make less expensive but still great sounding headphones that yeah, I think it's definitely something to have in your sort of audio arsenal, to have one of these inexpensive but still well-performing pairs of headphones, just to have in a bag, or if you have to have a long airplane flight, or you're going to be in a hotel for a while and you need something to listen to stuff on. I think there's some real interesting stuff to be found in the world of cheap headphones, but unfortunately, I'm not really a fan of the sound signature of these 40s. So for me, the best deal in bargain headphones is still the Kph30i. And in spite of everything, even though they definitely look like library headphones, again, I've had these things for at least 2 years now, and these have just been my go-to for just having something on the go, and just plug these into my own little FiO DAP, and these are just so enjoyable to listen to, no matter what genre you're listening to. Again, they're not perfect. They're not trying to be the best headphones in the world, but for 20 or 30 bucks, I don't think you can do better. And they're sturdy enough that they stand up to being carried around and being, you can carry them on the go. And if you break them, you can, decide to mail away for cost to send you another one, or just buy another one because they're so cheap. So that's, I guess that's my recommendation for this video, even though I do think that the 40s do have a bit more in the comfort factor on the pads. Not too big on the headband. I do think the actual silicone part and overall band of the 30 is actually better. And these are just too flimsy, too. I think if I had these in a bag for a week or two, even being very careful like I am with the 30s, these are going to get broken. Especially having this with this amount of wobble and they're this loose. Another thing I'll mention, I don't know if it's this particular pair, but in all my hours of testing this week, I have actually had a number of times where it seems like the right channel didn't entirely go out or have a dropout, but it seemed like maybe the connection's a little loose or something. So I don't know if that's just this being brand new and they're working the kinks out of manufacturing, or if it's part of the actual design not being the greatest. But once again, the cable connection is it's been improved, but I think it could still probably be a bit better. And you take these out of the box, you just can't get over how flimsy they feel. That's what struck me first. And again, comparing to the 30s, there's no comparison. These are too flimsy. So make of that what you will, but I thought it would be interesting to do it as a video because I've seen pretty much nothing but rave reviews for these 40s and got me all curious. And again, it's going to be up to your own preferences, and especially in the world of audio, everybody is going to have a different opinion because everybody has different ears, everybody has different head shapes. Headphones are very subjective, so these are my own 2 cents and just my own preferences, sort of talking about these. But in any case, I think these are great bargains, especially when they go on sale. If you're looking for an inexpensive headphone that's better than the crappy earbuds most people are using all the time, but you're not trying to jump over into headphones in the $100 and up territory, essentially. So, and of course, Koss has other models, and there are other brands out there. These are just two examples. So I hope this has been fun and informative as a sort of, I guess, one of my first equipment reviews on this channel. I just thought it would be fun to do because I was just very curious about this Koss KPH40. I keep wanting to say 40i because the 30s are 30i. I don't know why they did that. But anyhow, there are some improvements here. Some people really love this over previous models. I wish I could say that I did because these are more comfortable on the ears, but it's not. I just don't think it replaces the 30. I just don't. And these feel so much sturdier. So if I could take the cable improvement and the ear pad improvement in terms of the comfort and combine it with the 30s, I think there would be a true successor to the 30s. But as for now, I think some people are going to really like this, but I still have to side with the Kph30i's. So thank you for listening to my babbling about the world of inexpensive Koss headphones, and thank you ever so much for watching.